A warm welcome to one and all present here. On behalf of Dr. MGR Educational Research Institute University, I'm extremely happy to welcome all of you for this national level webinar on discussing issues related to 12th BRICS Summit. This program is hosted by Dr. MGR Educational Research Institute in association with Russian Cultural Center for Science and Culture and the Peninsula sorry, I had some issue, and the Peninsula Foundation. It is indeed really a matter of proud because the participants of today's program belong to all the fraternities like engineering and technology, arts, science, humanities, the medicine, and the dental fraternities. Since our university have got courses related to all these, we are proud to say that today's webinar is attended by all the students and faculty of our universities and outside. On behalf of our university, I extend a warm welcome to all the dignitaries present for today's webinar. Now, I invite Mr. Roglev Gennady, Director, Russian Center of Science and Culture, Chennai, to welcome the gathering. Over to you, sir.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Dear guests, dear participants of this webinar. As I told you, it's a pleasure to speak about the activities of BRICS, embracing billions of people living in different countries and continents. Discussing the 12th summit here in India, we should also feel proud that both of our countries, Russia and India, are members of this organization, which tries to build as a historical the relations of a new multilateral world, where the interests of all states and peoples are observed in balance and harmony. I think the significance of BRICS will grow in all their fields, including politics, economy, making our world more charitable and just. I would like to give a floor to my colleague, Mr. Anton Chernov, the Consul of Russian Federation in South India, Chennai. Please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For me, it is a great pleasure to have a speech at the front of such prominent participants. I would say that this year has been very difficult and unpredictable for all of us, and as well as for BRICS countries. The world is facing the coronavirus pandemic, and this required the adoption of extraordinary measures in all countries. Thus, the topic chosen for the BRICS summit of this year was quite broad and covered matters that dealt with expanding the strategic partnership between the member countries for the sake of global stability and security, as well as fostering innovative growth of the economies. This year, the Russian Federation presided over BRICS. I would say that 130 events were organized, including some 25 ministerial meetings. Many of them had to take place online. Our current priority is to coordinate collective BRICS measures to combat the pandemic, improve collaboration between our epidemiological services, and protect the lives and health of our citizens. And let me suggest that BRICS countries are in a better position. In testimony, I'd like to remind you that the UFA Declaration, which was adopted 5 years ago, included an agreement to work together to prevent the spread of infectious diseases including novel coronaviruses. Pursuant to that agreement, the BRICS countries created an early warning system for infectious disease outbreaks, which we could use during the COVID-19 pandemic. The BRICS countries promptly responded to the disease outbreak and took practical measures to combat the pandemic. I would like to point out that the Russian Direct Investment Fund has signed agreements with our Brazilian and Indian partners on clinical tests of the Sputnik V vaccine, and with pharmaceutical companies in China and India on the production of this vaccine, not only for our own use, but for the third countries. We have registered a second coronavirus vaccine in Russia. Epivac, it is named Epivac Corona, and the third one is in the works. The Russian Federation favors the establishment of the BRICS Vaccine Research and Development Center. Now, a few words about economy. This year, the pandemic forced each of our countries to take emergency measures to support national industries, finance, and the social sphere, to revive their economies and return them to a trajectory of sustainable growth. So the role of the new development bank, it is bank within BRICS, is very important. The bank has reserved $10 billion to combat the pandemic, while its overall portfolio of investment projects now exceeds 20 billion. As many as 62 large projects are already in the pipeline in the BRICS countries. A regional branch of the bank will soon open in Moscow to implement lending programs across the Eurasian space. Despite of the pandemic, the 5 countries are enhancing cooperation in science, technology, and innovation. The BRICS Network University is up and running. The parties have held the BRICS Math competition for school children this year, along with contests for young scientists and innovators and their research projects. Their coverage is truly impressive, from ocean and polar research to astronomy and artificial intelligence. Experts from the 5 countries carry out joint energy research as well, and they have been prepared on the projected development of fuel and energy sectors in the BRICS countries until 2040. So, dear colleagues, unfortunately, international terrorism and drug trafficking continue to pose serious threats to our countries, and cybercrime as well, and thus have greatly expanded its reach. We are witnessing dangerous destabilizing trends in the Middle East and North Africa. The armed conflicts in Libya and Yemen are continuing. This is still a lot to be done to bring about a political settlement in Syria, and the risks of escalation persist in Iraq, Lebanon, Afghanistan, and in the Persian Gulf. It is highly satisfying that the BRICS countries have been closely coordinating their efforts on current international and regional issues concerning terrorism. A policy document, the BRICS counter-terrorism strategy, was signed on the sidelines of the summit which took place in Moscow a few days ago. The BRICS countries are expanding their coordination on combating drug trafficking and corruption, as well as in international information security. So, colleagues, this is what I would like to say in conclusion. This coming January, our Indian friends will be taking over the BRICS chairmanship, and for sure, our Indian colleagues will add new interesting projects and ideas to cooperate between our 5 countries. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your inspiring and generous words. Now moving on to the program. Now I invite our dynamic VC Madam, Dr. S. Geeta Lakshmi, to give the inaugural address. Welcome, Madam.
Thank you. Thank you all for inviting me for this national level webinar on discussing issues related to 12th BRICS meet by Dr. MGR Education and Research Institute, a deemed university under the chairmanship of our AC Shanmugam and President Mr. AC Arun Kumar, who has been the driving force of this whole university. I should thank the Faculty of Engineering and Technology first year BTech and the Office of the International Relations on this occasion of the national webinar, and the resource speaker, Mr. A. Charnov, Council for Russian Federation in Chennai, Mr. Muthukumar, Chief Editor Trinity, Mr. Manivannan, the Professor Head of the Department of Politics and Public Administration, University of Madras, Air Marshal M. Madhiswaran, Chairman and Founder of the Peninsula Foundation, Mr. Shri Al-Ariyan Manikam, ex-ambassador of India to Finland. So on this occasion, I would like this BRICS has been a very good program where we have to analyze what can be done, how well can it be done. So I'm immensely delighted to know that this first year BTech and the Office of the International has made this possible with the Russian Center for Science and and Culture and Peninsula Foundation for this organizing this program. This indeed is purely a multidisciplinary approach in making all the students and faculty understand the highlights of BRICS Summit 2020. As all of us know, BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa Summit was held in November 17, 2020. The theme of the 12th BRICS Summit is global stability, shared security, and innovative growth. In this pandemic period, the global stability is much needed one right now to sustain it in international way. As a growing country, India must show and will show its stability in innovation, growth and security. Successful growth strategies include products of engineering, marketing, leadership, design, and product management. A growth strategy is a plan of action that allows one to achieve a higher level of market share that is currently available. India highlighted the issue of credibility and effectiveness of the institutions which are important for global governance and urged other BRICS members for their support. India introduced Atmanirbhar Bharat or the self-reliant campaign to its BRIC partners. India highlighted that the said campaign is based on self-reliant and resilient India, and it can act as a force multiplier for the global economy in the post-COVID-19 world which we are at it. Under this campaign, India delivered essential medicines to more than 150 countries because of its capability of Indian pharma industries as well as engineering products which has been made in India is also exported into many countries. So in this context, I appreciate the departments conducting this webinar in the crucial time of COVID-19 affecting the pandemic, that time involving all the departments, including ENT, as it involves the services of engineer and management people. It is also it's a coincidence that our university offers entrepreneurship orientation during the first year of the study of engineering and technology students. And these programs will be useful to the entrepreneurial aspirants during their course of study. So I should thank the Department of ENT and the International Affairs and the others in the team who had brought this as possible on this day. Thank you one and all, and also the resource persons.
Dr. Cyril Raj, sir. Over to you, sir. I think sir is having some connectivity problem. So let sir join.
Hello? Hello? Subhasri? Dr. Subhasri? Hello? Dr. Subhasri? Am I audible?
Sir?
Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Shall I continue? Hello? Hello, madam? Aparna, am I audible?
Sir, you are audible, sir.
Aparna, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible. Yes, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon, dear participants. First of all, I would like to thank. Hello? First of all, I would like to thank the Cultural Center of Russian Federation for providing such a wonderful opportunity for our university to host this very important discussion. Uh, as already known to everybody, the BRICS nation has got a population of around 40 percentage of the globe. And then again, if you see the GDP in terms of GWP, uh, again 27 percentage of the GWP of the entire world is coming only from this BRICS nation. If you see the another statistics, we are spending around $400 billion towards our defense spending. As already spoken by the previous speakers, this crucial time, the entire world is reeling under the pandemic, COVID-19. So the entire population of the globe need to be vaccinated. So especially the economies like Russia, China, India, we have to play a very important role in rolling out that vaccine stock to the entire world community. So definitely, there should not be any conflict among our BRICS nation, especially the ongoing problems between China and then our country. I mean, it is escalating too much of tension, and then a lot of setbacks also. Rather, if the two, I mean, if the BRIC country concentrate on development, as already spoken by the previous speaker, the NDB bank, which is going to come with $100 billion, if NDB bank concentrates on helping entrepreneurs across the 5 countries, BRICS country. So definitely, the per capita income of the BRICS country people nuclear will definitely rise, and then this will finally, bring a good wealth to all the citizens also. Then at the same time, there are well-known education system being practiced across all these BRICS countries. especially with the strong science and mathematics foundation from Russia, as well as a strong education system being followed from India. So, if a free credit transfer system is being implemented across all the educational institutions across the BRICS country, so definitely we can allow young students who are passing out from higher educational institutions to move across to these five countries. Among the five countries, may enable new ventures to be initiated across. Then again, there should be a balanced trade. I mean, balanced trade activities also. So respecting the interest of each country also. So definitely, there should not be escalation of trade war or direct or indirect trade war against the fellow members. So if these things are taken care, so definitely by another 5 to 10 years, the BRICS country will be the superpower of the world order. So and then again one more agenda should also be included. So all the BRICS countries should also be the permanent member of the UN Security Council also. So if we work uh, definitely in these line, it will be in the interest of all the five nations. So with this, I hope the participants will have a lot of deliberations about how to improve the BRIC activities. Thanks a lot for providing such a wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was really inspirational. Now, I invite Mr. Manivannan, Professor and Head, Department of Political and Public Administration, University of Madras, to address on the topic BRICS and Civilizational Quest for Equity and World Order. Welcome, sir.
Madam Vice Chancellor, Mr. Kennedy, Air Marshal Matheswaran, sir, Mr. Muthukumar, Mr. Cyril, and other distinguished, and Cherno, and other distinguished members of this, the panel and the organizers of this event, and other other participants. I take great pleasure in joining you for this discussion on the BRICS, and as the topic that has been suggested here from my side is on the civilizational quest and the civilizational quest for a world order. And in fact, the first thing that I want to lay before you is when this organization was formed or established about 11 years ago, and the original aim of the BRICS was the establishment of an equitable, democratic, multipolar world order. And so I repeat that the original aim of BRICS was the establishment of an equitable, democratic, and multipolar world order. This is very interesting. In a time as in the new unfolding of a new millennium and the century, 21st century, and countries like Russia, China, India, and coming forward, and subsequently followed by South Africa and Brazil. And in fact, it was the current president, who was then the president at the same time, and many terms ago, he made a very interesting reference about a multipolar world. And the many interesting references that India and China are civilizational states. But we also believe, and we from India also believe, that Russia is a civilizational state too, and a civilizational state and pioneering civilization, culture, and society, and in the Eurasian framework of understanding of politics and society as well. And then, what is that about China and a civilizational state in itself, and India, and seeking about um, a global equity in world order? And traditionally, the world order has always been the Occidental world. I mean, when I say the Occidental world, is that the non-Western world, the southern hemisphere has largely been overlooked, neglected, or not been included into this worldview of the power system in international relations in the last, say, 300 or 400 years. And in the why say 300, 400 years is that, and while we do believe that we are ancient cultures and in societies and civilizations, and all these countries that are included as part of this debate itself. And then in the last, say, 150 years, and this world order model has also been very Western. And when we say the very Western, is that very Occidental and very Western, and then the non-Western or an alternative framework of international politics needed to be defined. And then this has to be done and by countries like India, China, and Russia, and Brazil, and South Africa. And this makes a very, very interesting quest for about, like, if you look at about Russia is already a permanent power in the security of the United Nations Security Council system. And China is also a power as a permanent enjoys the permanent status. But country like India, and South Africa, they said about in 1980s and 90s, the world's looked at South Africa is that it's going to be the next century is going to be the African century. But the African century did not arrive. The African century did not arrive, 21st century. And this was spoken in the 1990s when Nelson Mandela became free and South Africa became a post-apartheid society. And only then it revealed about not only the contradictions, the divide in the world power system. And then Brazil is no less of an influential country in South and Central America, South America. And Brazil, and when you look at this economy of these countries, and as well as the social stability, the social issues, and the cultural dynamism, and all these countries are are in quest of a power transition. Like, two of them, although enjoy a status as a permanent powers, but they do understand there is something intrinsic in the working of the power system in international relations. And as a transatlantic, and as well as an Occidental and Western and Anglo-Saxonic power system. So, so there are very fundamental issues in this entire working of international relations. And so I place this quest about the civilizational quest of India, China, Russia, and Brazil and South Africa as one of the foremost concerns of the multipolar and multicultural and what we call as the very diverse power system. So this is the first and foremost thing. And then in terms of how do we take this forward is that, and not just simply by asking that India and Brazil and South Africa should become the permanent power. We are not simply asking that. We are also asking that the international economic system should undergo a reform. And then international political structure has to undergo a change. Then we are talking about in terms of what we call in the power sharing, because there has to be it is not about a global divide. And we are talking about the global shared responsibility, or very uniquely expressed by His Holiness Dalai Lama as the universal responsibility. So we have to see this, despite the contradictions and conflicts and change and the issues that we have and between us. Say, for instance, if you take the case of China and India, and we may compete, we may have contradictions, we may have conflicts, but at the same time, and if we see that the longer insight, the longer perspective in our cultural worldview, and we have so much to share, we have so much to contribute. And so is with Russia, and so is with Brazil and with South Africa. Now, I look at Brazil as a representative of the South American, what you call the other continent in the American continent itself. And then the Americas are genuinely represented by the other half. And then you need a voice for this world. I mean, I literally use the word the world, not just about the North America as United States and Canada, but also the Central and South America. It needs a voice. And then virtually, if you take the case of South Africa, or the voice of Africa has to be in the United Nations, has to be not only in the United Nations as just as a voting forum, or in the General Assembly, or in the Security Council, or in the specialized agencies, but more importantly, how the international relations is being steered in the multilateral power system. So I find that BRICS today, as one of the distinguished speakers has mentioned, that from now, the next 10 years, and BRICS should, I don't see that as a superpower, but it should become a model organization of economic cooperation, of a cultural and civilizational understanding, and a non-Western and an alternative paradigm in international relations, like in 1947 to 1970s, that what India and the non-aligned movement represented to the world, and which absolutely transformed the ground about United Nations and the international politics. And I see that BRICS can steer this, but with power and influence. And because in the politics of the world, the power and influence comes from the stability and about collective and common interests, and then the shared responsibility of peace and cooperation. And so I advocate and I believe that the BRICS nation understand that in order to change the world, that we have to change certain inherent paradigm, that setbacks that we have, and set aside our contradictions, and then build a world in which we are deeply connected, and also provide a sustainable and a stable alternative, and that brings forth a multipolar system where there is an equity, where there is a shared responsibility, where there's a collective security and a global peace. And I put forth this as a worldview for the BRICS nations and for the future of the BRICS movement itself, a civilizational quest. And I want to thank some here with a very humble thanks and gratitude for giving me this opportunity to join you for the discussion. Thank you one and all. Thank you.
Hello,
Hello, yes. Thank you.
am I
Please go
audible?
ahead. Yes, now
Yeah,
you're audible. Yeah.
yeah. So thank you, sir. Thank you for
Thank you,
spending
ma'am.
a valuable time with us and
Thank you.
sharing many important points about BRICS. I think it will be
Thank you.
very useful for the student community. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam.
Now I invite Mr. Muthukumar, Chief Editor, the Trinity Mirror and President, BRICS Generation, to address the gathering on the topic Future Role of BRICS.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Respected Consul of Russian Federation, respected Vice Chancellor, dignitaries, and dear participants. I'm very sorry I'm in a place where my internet connectivity is not that great. So kindly bear with me on this. I hope I am audible. Okay, as this 2020 comes to an end, that means 1/5 of this century is over, and the world is still yearning for a political stability, global economic recovery, and all due to the current COVID-19 pandemic. It has shaken the very foundation of humanity, cutting across all geographical spheres. Few days ago, BRICS foreign ministers met via video conference led by Russian minister with Russia in the capacity as the current chair. They discussed how to push economic growth among the member nations. In the immediate future, BRICS leaders will focus on significant, complicated issues relating to geopolitical, to socio-economic sphere, as well as transformation strategies in the global landscape of the 21st century. The meeting of the foreign ministers also adopted a working document that will further reinforce the position and development of this BRICS group. Over the past decade, the group has proved to be a relevant, well-respected format for global cooperation. BRICS countries maintain solidarity in strengthening collective principles in global affairs. They advocate respect for sovereignty, sovereign equality of all nations, and are deeply concerned over the conflicts that are emerging. And they feel it can all be resolved through peaceful means. In the coming week, the BRICS calendar is very interesting. From November 29th, BRICS Youth Summit is there. And of course, from December 3rd, there is this meeting of BRICS ministers and head of departments for youth, and followed by meeting of BRICS Sherpas to set the agenda for the coming years. And on 10th December, foreign policy planning dialogue among the BRIC foreign ministers will be held. All these interactions will help in strengthening multilateral principles in global politics and promoting shared interests of BRICS countries. The potential of the new development bank or the BRICS bank has been highlighted in various forums, even in this current debate which is happening now. Well, we all know its immense potential, but what is happening? What are all mooted? Where are we moving forward in this BRICS bank? Fundamental issues. There is a proposal to integrate and develop a new payment gateways and become a viable alternative to the US American dollar economic hegemony. The BRICS tax and customs system is planned, and if it is implemented well, can be a new platform for global prosperity. BRICS can form a network, university activities, and forge scholarly alliances to the benefit of modern day youth to access the latest knowledge and tap resources in terms of advanced technologies. It will definitely lay the foundation for a smarter new world. Well, with India's continued economic growth and scientific thinking, it is on way to become a world's most powerful country. Strategies of the BRIC economic partnerships are all coming at a crucial juncture for an emerging economy like India. BRICS cooperation is aimed at complementing and strengthening existing bilateral and multilateral relationships between member states. India is definitely going to benefit from the outcome of these summits in the coming weeks as the Russia's presidency comes to an end and India will be taking over very soon. I'm sure it will contribute to promoting global economic recovery, reduce potential risks in the international financial markets, and increase economic growth among the members of BRICS. India is presently a politically very stable and a strong leadership is there. It has not been involved. I mean, India is not involved in any major international conflicts, be it with European Union or Japan or US or Russia. It has fostered a peaceful relationship with these world powers and global players. To an extent, with the rise of emerging economies, there is a need for political stability among the market reforms for success. Well, India has it all in good measure at this crucial juncture. The future of BRICS looks promising and pushing a greater global distribution of power, and it will be a big push for India's aspiration as it spreads its wing to climb higher in the global economic sphere or to become a permanent member in UN. Lastly, Sputnik from Russia and the assurances from China to cooperate and save the world from this COVID pandemic. China has actually assured cooperation with South Africa and India in the coming days. Their control measures, combined with Russia's innovative strategies, is a positive sign that BRICS as a group can emerge as a powerful forum for multilateral cooperation as well as overcoming bilateral issues. I'm thankful for this opportunity, and it's great hearing to all your presentations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for familiarizing us with many points related to BRICS. Thank you. Thank you once again, sir. Now, we have one more eminent personality with us, Sri Al-Ariyan Manikam, ex-ambassador of India to Finland. To know more about him, Al-Ariyan Manikam joined Indian Foreign Service IFS in 1980. Before that, he worked for IOB as an officer for 2 years. He did his BCom from St. Xavier College, Palayam Kottai, and MCom from Loyola College, Chennai. His first assignment abroad was at Embassy of India, Cairo in 1982, where he studied Arabic as his compulsory foreign language. Later, he was posted as Commercial Secretary at Indian embassies in Muscat, Oman, Budapest, Hungary, and Damascus, Syria. He was assigned Ministry of External Affairs from 94 to 96. In 1996, he was assigned Permanent Mission of India to United Nations, New York. In 1999, he joined Embassy of India, Jakarta, Indonesia. He worked as Deputy High Commissioner in Indian High Commission, Canberra, Australia, and Colombo. From 2008, he worked as Joint Secretary and headed Gulf Division and Hajj Division. He was appointed as Chief Passport Officer in 2009, and during his tenure, he set up 7 pilot projects. He has many more laurels to his CV. I think time is not going to be enough for us. Now it is over to you, Sri Al-Ariyan Manikam. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity organized by the MGR Institute and the Russian Cultural Center, and I was very delighted to hear the different views expressed by previous speakers. I have been part and parcel of all these international forums. So these forums really, when you work inside, you see a different picture. When you see it from outside, a different picture. But what are the fundamental? India is historically in a place where we have been always the attraction. It brings me to one of the most important memory I have when I joined in 1980. As part of our training program, we have to call on the Prime Minister as a group. We are 20 young officers. We had the opportunity of meeting Madam Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister. It was a monologue. She spoke to us very interestingly. She said, look, we became independent and we wanted to develop by then the world was divided into East and West. We went to the West for help. All the help came with a string attached. They asked us to join NATO or CENTO. But when we went to the East Bloc countries led by Russia, they came and willingly they set up our industries. One country built the steel industry, another East Bloc country built the agriculture, another built the dam. So the foundation was built by them. So over a period of time, 60s, 70s, in the 80s, our economic relationship became much closer to the Eastern Bloc countries. So we were always criticized by the Western countries that we are pro-East Bloc, which was not the case, because they were willing to help us with a condition attached. So we found our solace in NAM. We played a very important role, and our voice was very, very solid and was heard everywhere. There's a long history. So Russian Federation really, I mean, USSR at that time, helped in a big way in creating the foundation what we have. Today we may see that what we had was not correct or we would have had it different, but foundation was laid. From that we built. This is very important to understand. Then my most important assignment was in Syria and Hungary and Oman. You will be surprised that in each one of these countries, India is seen as a cradle of culture, a lot of imagination and expectations about India. That's India. 96 in UN was an eye-opener for me. I felt very small because there we have to get vote for our issues. We had problems on many issues, but you have to have support from international community, countries. And the first day was in the day when we lost the election for the UN Security Council, non-permanent membership with Japan. We got 42, Japan got 140. It was a big setback. The next election, we worked hard. We got 140 in the next Economic Social Council. So that is a UN is the forum where most of the international dynamics debates takes place. So to gather support to develop a close relationship, if we are not able to achieve what we wanted it, countries like India and other large countries found these forums outside to develop our own economic, cultural, and sometimes to say a bloc. But it is not like the military bloc we have in NATO or anybody else. So 99, 98 was the most crucial period. We had a nuclear test. That at the time there was an attempt to pass a resolution in the UN Security Council, a strong resolution against India. The country which came to our help was Russia. At that time, the current foreign minister, Mr. Lavrov, was the permanent representative of Russian Federation. And I was a counselor political. So I used to go and meet him and his colleagues, and they used to help us in giving us sort of a informal way what's going on. And we lobbied very hard and diluted the resolution, and it became Chapter 6 resolution, not 7, because 7 is for enforceable. We would have been in a very, very difficult situation. But Russia took the lead, and the other countries, I don't want to name, they were on the side. When they saw Russia's stubbornness, France came, and then the usual British and the US, they were on one side, and China was pushing us very strongly to punish India at that time, 98. That was a lesson we learned, and who is our friends, who is not our friends. That is past, but we made a very strong progress economically, and we were able to come up to a level where people started looking at India. So coming back to the BRIC, I would like everyone to look at from this point of view. These are all forums. You have NAM, you have G20, you have ASEAN, you have SARC, you have APEC. There are so many forums which are formed. They're trying to identify areas where they can try to gain advantages and benefit. But I would say the Russians stayed with us wherever we are. They have always been very, very great, very, very helpful to India and our point of view. And today we are in a different global geopolitical situation. It's a different world than what it was 2006. Now we need the BRIC cooperation much more than what we needed in 2006 because of the various situation, which is I don't want to specify it. It offers an economic forum. What we do in a forum like this, when there is no mutual agreement on issues, we go into sports, education, culture, and science and technology, and then the ministers meet and try to create cooperation. Last year, I remember we had Brazil came as a big way as one of the partners for the 26th January, and they had done very well in trying to open up their economy to India. South Africa, we have a traditional relationship, and it's a very important country for us. We have a large Indian origin population there. I have spoken about Russia more than what is required, but I always believe Russia is our friend. They will continue to be our friend. China is a country with whom we lived for years, and we never had a problem except 1962. Now there is a new problem coming up. This is a new reality, but we believed that there is a space in the world for both India and China to coexist and compete at the same time. At the same time, we have to live with our differences and try to solve the problems. So what these BRICS summits used to offer so far, on the sideline, we used to organize meetings between the heads of state, bilateral discussions. And those meetings were found to be very, very important and very useful. And it used to be I had to organize when I was in Australia, when I was in Jakarta, ASEAN summit, I used to go and participate. Of course, New York 3 years I spent in the UNJ, that's a separate, I can talk for hours what all happened. But these forums offers an excellent opportunity to bring the world leaders and you are together in one day and you are able to meet in one go for leaders. And, then it is left to us diplomats and the bureaucrats to carry forward. This time, unfortunately, it did not take place. It was because of the COVID. Otherwise, we would have had most of our issues with China resolved. And I hope that in the coming years, we will be able to bridge our differences, issues with China. Media has been hyping it a lot because of the modern world, modern time. Everything is a breaking news. It was happening in the past. Now it is known to everybody, but it should not perturb everybody. We are responsible countries. We have to coexist, cooperate. BRICS is a very good forum in which all our security-related issues, or whether terrorism or economic cooperation, whether we can jointly develop a vaccine, we can share these things. These things can be discussed. Despite our differences, the last summit, we have agreed to have so many other meetings, so it will go on. And I will stop here and because I've spoken a lot. I wanted to speak a lot about the pivotal role Russia has played. And even today we are having a webinar on this issue, and that also in southern part of India, where I come from. And I was delighted to hear some of the speakers. Thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing your memories with us and also telling us the importance of BRIC Forum for India. Now, next I would like to invite Air Marshal M. Madeshwaran, Chairman and Founder, the Peninsula Foundation, to address the gathering on the topic BRICS, and the post-COVID world. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Yeah. Thank you for the India University, more importantly, the Russian Cultural Center, for having put this together, organized this event. It's a great pleasure to be here, particularly as on behalf of the Peninsula Foundation. As the ambassador pointed out, I think the importance of India-Russia relationship and the strength of India-Russia relationship, both at the strategic level and at the various domains in which we work very closely together and cooperate, is extremely important, very strong, and particularly in the military side, where the defense relationship has been one of the core areas under which the relations have evolved over the last half a century plus. And that will, it will always remain, as the ambassador pointed out, it will be a very strong relationship between the two countries. That strategic partnership that exists between Russia and India is vital ingredient in the way BRICS will actually function, evolve, function, and contribute to the the global governance process that's emerging in the post-COVID world. And BRICS is extremely important, in my opinion. Particularly, we are at a time, particularly after the disruption that the COVID has brought about, has exposed the inadequacies in the existing international cooperation mechanisms, the global architecture that has evolved over the last 300 years, which is skewed towards Western dominance. And never before is it more important then at this time that the international cooperation on the basis of equality, on the basis of genuine cooperation amongst countries to share development, to share their strengths, to share science and technology is never more important than now. And therefore, in that context, I think BRICS has a very vital role in addressing the transformation that's underway in global governance and international institutions. The world we live in today is still a post-1945 architecture, heavily skewed towards, the domination that's evolved over 300 years in a Euro-American centric system. And now that the world is an architecture of 200 countries, independent sovereign countries, and while many say that the great power, race and great power politics has come back, I think we need to look at how to rationalize global governance, strengthen international institutions, and bring about development, support development to those countries that need development assistance without strings and in a more proactive manner. That's where BRICS comes in once again. I believe, despite differences between India and China and maybe, amongst the members on certain issues, the larger dimension of global governance must actually influence the cooperation amongst the members of BRICS. And that should be kept in mind at all times. So what are the areas in which, we need to work? One is international security, which instead of getting into narrow nationalistic, power politics influence decision making, I think we need to look at international security away from the dimension that's been propagated over the last half a century from a US dominant perspective. I think we need to look at it. And that's where India, Russia can lead the way. China can be, can be brought in. China has its own, approach. They've always opposed our membership in NSG, etc. I think these can be turned around. And Brazil and South Africa will always be supportive of, the leadership that can be provided by, the BRICS members by talking to each other and leading the way in the global governance. There was a mention about the economic pillar being dominated by the dollar-denominated, economic system, and that needs to get rationalized. That is again moving in that direction. So one of the most important things is that BRICS has set up its bank, which is actually not a direct challenge to the Bretton Woods institutions, but it is complementary, and actually it's become more popular amongst the developing countries. And therefore, that's one way to send out a message to the world that you need to actually rationalize the system and bring about, a better approach to, assisting development in the world. Second, you need to address is the security angle, international security angle, which means reform of the UN Security Council must. India has been a very active proponent of rationalization of the international security architecture, and BRICS can play a major role in that. And this is where, again, despite the differences between India and China, India and Russia can actually lead the way and bring the other members of the BRICS in the fold, along with our approach, in which the UN Security Council, if it's reformed to look at the global system of the 21st century, becoming truly representative of the world's interest rather than one segment's, interest, it can play a major role in ensuring better peace, lesser conflicts, and lesser interventions, and a lesser propensity to use sanctions at the drop of a hat to actually punish nations. So these are all areas in which I think we can cooperate in a much better way. The world of post 1945, if you really look at it, how it's been architectured, is also citing security. Many denial regimes have actually been well established by the leaders of technology to ensure technology control remains with them. Indirectly, the technology control allows them to dominate global markets, and therefore, indirectly, they also control economy towards their advantage. And that has been very well, articulated by many academics and researchers, that the international system that's been structured post-1945, the three pillars, security pillar, the political pillar, and the economic pillar, or technological pillar and the economic pillar, are all skewed towards dominance of established leaders in the technology system. And technology is moving very rapidly. Thanks to the kind of transformation that's taking place due to digitization and disruptive technologies like 3D printing and artificial intelligence, etc., China has shown the way on how it can actually leapfrog and challenge the hegemonic dominance through denial systems that exist. There is a UN, article that actually was, passed in 1950s, where it becomes incumbent on countries not to deny technologies to other countries when it means that technology is useful for their development, but it's rarely followed. And these are areas in which we need to actually study it carefully. Ultimately, the BRICS will need to become rule makers of global governance, and not through a conflictual mode, but more through defining the approach that we take, explaining the logic, making most of the world see our process. And because these five are also, like Professor Ram Manivandan said, these five nations also wield significant power and influence. That power and influence must be used proactively to change the existing rules and regulations to make them more rational for better global governance. And that is possible. So that brings us to the current issue between India and China. I believe in an international system of the 21st century, neither can China do without India, nor can India do without China. And therefore, while we have our problems at the borders, which can be resolved through a dialogue and through a process of better understanding, there is always a competition between nations. No one can deny that part. But I think if you really want to look at economic development, global cooperation, India and China have to get their acts together. They have to cooperate. They will be the leading economies by 2050. They will actually be the number one and number two by 2050, 2070 timeframe. And you cannot afford to have a conflictual relationship in this process. And one of the ways in which India can address this part is to collaborate with our established strategic partners like Russia, bring in cooperation in a way that removes our technological vulnerabilities, creates adequate technological sovereignty for the nation, and cooperate towards the betterment of countries in the across the world for genuine development process rather than purely economic and commercial interests. And this is where global health, the pandemic, has revealed the inadequacies of so many countries, particularly even developed countries like the US, the inadequacies of their state systems with respect to public health. This is where I suppose international institutions like WHO can actually be reformed, not be held to ransom by one nation or two nations, but cooperate more towards addressing a pandemic from a genuine global perspective. And in that context, I think I'll close it here by stating that BRICS has a great responsibility. It will be unlike any other regional groupings or any other organizations that we are seeing all across since 1945. It has a great responsibility, and that fundamental responsibility is towards meeting how the global architecture needs to look in the 21st century, maybe by 2030 and 40 time frame, and rationalizing the international governance, making it more equitable, getting the security architectures more representative of the international requirements. And of course, while there may be competition, I think the classic power politics and hegemony competition should actually be replaced by a better cooperation led by BRICS in this world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your informative speech. On behalf of our university, I once again thank all the guests of honor, those who participated in today's webinar. Now, our students, many of our students, young aspirants, they are very new to this topic, yet they were watching very interestfully. One question has been posted by a participant. How will this summit help entrepreneurs for innovative growth? The theme of this summit is the security and innovative growth. So I think all the speakers spoke about the entrepreneurs. So how this is going to help for innovative growth and to India.
Okay, can I say something? Hello. Shri, can you hear me? I can't hear anybody. Okay, innovative growth. I think, like I mentioned in my statement, we are at a very interesting phase as far as technology is concerned, and this is what. Say again. As far as growth is concerned, we have been over the last 200 years. We've been through a process, what is known as an industrial revolution, led or governed technological growth, and that had a certain pattern of technology developments. Most of you would have read Alvin Toffler's and the third wave, and different eras of change, civilizational change, the agricultural era, industrial revolution era, and now we are moving to knowledge era. The digital age, the importance of information and communication technologies, and of course the kind of capabilities in research and development that have come into play, has now given a a golden opportunity to countries like India, and China has already demonstrated that, to leapfrog over certain process of development and achieve higher levels of technological capabilities in various domains, like like 3D printing, which is disruptive technologies, like artificial intelligence. So one of the ways in which the industrial age development has taken place is that people control databases, and there is a certain sequential process of development. The current opportunities that are available in different domains, be it in whether it's genome editing, whether it's in technology development for the military, you are actually able to reverse the process of developing databases yourself. Your 3D printing can actually put together the raw materials, and through that process you can actually play around with compositions, and you can actually test and quickly get the results, and that experimental data development is available to you without even having access to what the other developed countries have built a database of over 100 years. So here's a great opportunity, and in that context, innovation gets a big boost. Startups will get a big boost, and you're seeing that already. And that is where I think you'll break new ground. You'll break new ground in being able to actually bring in new solutions to the problems that we face. Critical technologies have always been the secret of a nation's strength in terms of security, in terms of market access, global dominance. And those critical technologies today is possible. We are looking at an ability to actually get control over that by ourselves, and that is where innovation will innovative solutions will be able to give a fillip to our growth in a big way.
For the wonderful speech, sir. As I told you, the students are much new to this topic, so there are no more queries. Now, I would like to thank all the chief guests, those who participated today. I invite Dr. R. Kausalya, Coordinator, Office of International Relations, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Yes, thank you so much, Subhashri ma'am. Good evening. On behalf of Dr. MGR Educational and Research Institute University, Russian Center of Science and Culture, and the Peninsula Foundation, it gives me an immense pleasure to propose the vote of thanks. We thank our Honorable President Engineer A.C.S. Arun Kumar sir for his constant support, guidance, and generous funding, which plays a significant role in organizing all the international programs. Thanks to our higher executives, VC Dr. S. Geeta Lakshmi ma'am, Registrar Dr. C.B. Parnivelu sir, Joint Registrar Dr. Jabrat sir, Joint Registrar Dr. Surulraj sir, for the immense support in organizing this webinar. Heartfelt thanks to Mr. A. Chonov, Consul of Russian Federation in Chennai, Air Marshal M. Mathishwaran, Peninsula Foundation, Mr. Muthukumar, Chief Editor, The Trinity Mirror, and Mr. Sri Al-Ariyan Manikam, ex-ambassador of India to Finland, Mr. Manivanan, Professor and Head, Department of Politics and Public Administration, University of Madras. Special thanks to Mr. Rogalev Gennady sir, Director, Russian Center of Science and Culture, for always remembering our university and giving us a golden opportunity, and Mr. Basha sir of Russian Center of Science and Culture, and our Dean E&S, Dr. Subhashri ma'am, for their hard work, coordination in organizing this webinar and making it as a grand success. Thanks to Ms. Aparna and Sarunan sir for the technical support, and thanks to all the participants. Thank you one and all.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you all the guests. Thank you for your interesting reports. Thank you all our speakers. I would like to thank our main partners of this webinar. I would like to thank Dr. MGR Institute and the Peninsula Foundation for helping us to organize this webinar. I would like to thank Mr. Muthukumar, our old partner, long-standing partner, and also our long-standing partner, Mr. Manivanam and Mr. Manikam. Thank you very much for your participation, and thank you very much for your report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
In the assessment, in the maths, then the maths, ma.